things that we do need to kind of go back and review. One of them is the exponential rule. Okay, so this is just a review from last time. Okay, so you want to write a little review on the top. If you have a to the power of 2 times a to the power of 5, do you guys remember what we did with the exponent? Remember, like this was a couple weeks ago? Anybody remember? What do you do with those two powers? Do you guys remember? Yeah, you add them together. So this is a to the power of 2 plus 5. And this is what Mr. Duncan was talking about. It's like those are the rules, right? But if you can do some mental math, you can kind of add those numbers together in your head. You don't have to show us which numbers you're adding. You know how to do it in your head. So this is a to the power of 7. All right? Okay. So basically, this rule is applied for some of these things. Okay? So try to remember this. So let's go to example 1, part A. All right, numerical values, you just need to multiply. So you can just kind of set aside these numbers and multiply them together. So let's go ahead and multiply positive 6 with negative 4 will give you, what do we get? Negative 24, okay? All right, those numbers you just multiply. Now we have x to the third power multiplied by x to the fourth power, which is this one right here, the review rule. Do you see that? So this will be x to the power of how much? It will be not 12. You don't add those. I mean, you don't multiply them. You need to add those two exponents, which will be 7. All right, so be careful. All right? So think about this rule for most of these problems. Okay? All right, if you need to take out your calculator to multiply the numbers, go ahead and do that. All right, so, but I mean, at this time, I hope you guys know how to multiply positive and negative numbers fairly well. That's what we're hoping. All right, so you don't really need to use your calculator. All right, so let's take a look at part B. This is somewhat similar, but the variables are important. The same variables will go together. All right, so hold on. Let me enlarge it a little bit. Okay, here we go. I don't know if that helped. All right, let's go ahead and set aside the numbers again. So let's go ahead and multiply just the numerical value numbers. So we have 5 times 7 will give you a total of 35. All right, so that's okay. Again, here's x to the first power, which is invisible. Do you see that? X to the first power. And x to the first power again. So what do you do with your exponents and powers? What do you do with that first power and first power? What do you do with that exponent? Add them together. So this is x to the power of 2. And then here's y to the second, right? Exponent y to the second. And here's y to the first power. Again, this is second power, first power. This will give you y to the power of 3, right? Because you add them together, right? So if you need to make a little note telling yourself, make sure you add the exponent, okay? If you want to write that down off to the side so that you can use that during the exam, make sure you do that, okay? So those little notes on the side might be helpful, okay? So you can put add the exponent, all right? Add the exponent, or exponents are powers, or sometimes we call it degrees, right? So same thing. All right, so the next example, we're going to show you the difference between using distributed property and the foiling method using arrows, all right, or using the arrows, all right? So I want you to pick whichever is comfortable for you, whichever is easiest for you. Okay? It really doesn't really matter to us which method you use as long as you get them correct. Now, just be patient. Some of them are pretty tedious, long, okay? So distributed property is to kind of rewrite everything individually. So this is 3x times 3x squared plus, okay, so you multiply the first one, okay, you see that? And then you take the outer multiply expression and then multiply to the second term, which is 3x times 6x minus, take the outer term again, right, expression, and multiply to the last term, 3x times, using parentheses, 5, and then you multiply each one individually, just like we have on the top. You see it? So this is, take the numbers separately again. You see it? 3 times 3 will give you 9. And this is x to the first power, this is x to the second power, so therefore this is x to the power of 3 plus, and 3 times 6, again, outer numbers, right? Separate the numbers and multiply them. So what is 3 times 6? 18. And then x to the first, and this is x to the first, so this is x to the power of 2. And then multiply just the numbers. Again, separate the numbers and multiply them. So this is minus 3 times 5 will give you, minus 15 or negative 15. X will be your multiply. This is multiply by monomial times a trinomial. Do you see that? So this is just multiplication. All right, so I'll give you time to kind of copy this. All right, this was quite long. I don't really expect you to do this. We don't really use this method. We just like using the arrow method. All right, so this is exactly the same problem. Just pay attention to what I'm doing first, and then you can write down the solution later on. So what we do is just take this and then multiply to the first one, like that. And then we multiply to the second one, like that, using arrows. Again, you don't have to put arrows later on if you feel comfortable, all right? If you can do that in your head. So this is just 3x times 3x squared will give you 9x to the third. You see it? You just kind of do it in your head. And then plus, do you see the sign? Plus. So this is 3 times 6 will give you 18. And x times x, x to the first and x to the first will give you x to the second. And same thing, basically the same thing, but you're just kind of like seeing it visually with arrows. And 3x times negative 5 will give you negative 15x. All right, so go ahead and copy down the arrows and then check to see if this answer is matching with that one right here. And then you just need to decide which method is better for you. All right, so I'll give you a few more seconds to finish up. And I'll show you a similar example with other examples. So we're going to go to our second page. You guys ready? All right, here we go. Go to the back side. All right, this time we're going to use distributive property with binomial times binomial. And we're going to use the arrow method, which is called the FOIL method. Okay, and I'll explain FOIL method. It's basically the arrow method. Okay, and I'll explain that with the same problem. All right, so here we go. So again, just make sure you pay attention. And we're going to take the first part and multiply it to the first one. This is x times parentheses x. And then plus, take the first one and multiply it to the second term. This is x times parentheses 2. All right, since you're done with the first term, with the first parentheses, you go to the second term in this first parentheses. So 5 times x, and then 5 times the last term, so this is plus 5 times 2. I'll give you time to copy that. Like I said, I think for me, for all of us, distributive property is okay if you want to organize it and go step by step, which is fine. If you need it, go ahead and use it. All right, so we have x times x. So this is x to the first and x to the first. That will give you x to the power of 2. And then we have x times 2. You want to put them in order. How do you put this in order? Usually you put numerical value in front of the x, okay? So put number in front of the x. So you have 2x. And this is 5 times x will be 5x plus 5 times 2 will give you 10. I'll give you time to copy that part. All right, check to see if you have anything to combine. Is there anything that we can combine? Like terms. You remember like terms? You combine like terms. Which ones are alike? 2x and 5x. So that will give you x squared plus, what is 2x and 5x? 7x plus 10, so that is your answer. Alright, so we're going to use the same example, but this time we're going to use FOIL method, which is the same thing as arrow method. Okay? So FOIL stands for first, and then O stands for outer. Oh, I'm so sorry. First, outer is right there. You had it right there. I didn't even see it. Gosh. And then I stands for inner, and the L stands for last. Okay? All right. Instead of me writing it out, I shouldn't even write this out. Thank you, Mr. Duncan. All right. So here we go. So I want to take the first one and multiply to the first term and using the arrow like that. Okay? So first one and first one, and O is outer, so outer one with the outer one. Do you see it? And then it says inner. These are inner ones right there. Do you see the inner ones? And the last number with the last number in each term. Do you see that? So you can use arrows again, but after a while, you can kind of do this without drawing any arrows. So let's start with the first one. So first arrow is x times x will give you x squared. And x times 2 would give you 2x. And then 5 times x will give you 5x. And then 5 times 2 would give you 10. And he said if you just follow the arrow, it tells you which ones to multiply. Right, I'll give you time to copy the arrows and the rest. Alright, just like the other one, you can see that there are a couple of terms that we can combine, 2x and 5x. And that will give you the same thing, 7x plus 10. And there it is. They're the same answer. All right? All right, I'll give you a few more seconds to finish up. And I have 2 more examples, I think. Hold on a second. Yeah. Now I just have 2 more examples and we're done, okay? All right, anybody need more time with this? No? Okay, we're gonna. All right, this is our third method. Now you can choose to do this. I know that some people like using boxes. All right, so we have learned distributive, and we have learned arrow, and now the last one is called a box. So if you have 2 by 2, you need to draw. You need to draw a 2 by 2 box like this. Let's draw a nice box. Then go ahead and draw a box like that. All right, so on the top you would have x plus 5, which is the first one. It doesn't really matter which order you put them in, to be honest, okay? You could have put x plus 5 on the side, and then x plus 2 on the side. Again, it doesn't really matter which one comes first, okay? You can switch the order. You will end up with the same answer, don't worry. But I just like putting one on the top, but it doesn't really matter too. Some people like it on the side, okay? Alright, so I'll give you time to copy that. Remember, I'm getting this from here on the top. Do you see it? It says parentheses x plus 5, here's x plus 5, here's the second parentheses x plus 2, x plus 2. Right? So you want to line up, where things are at, okay? So here you go. So do you see this right here? X times x will give you, right here in this box, do you see it right here? This will be x squared. Alright, for this box, which two things do you need to multiply, do you think? What do you think, guys? Which two terms do you need to multiply to get this box? 2 and x. Do you see that? 2 and x. So that will give you 2x. Alright, can you think of which two numbers or two things you need to multiply to get into this box? 5 and 2, or 2 and 5, right? So 5 and 2 is 10. See it? And then which two things do you multiply to get into this box? What do you think? 5 and x. So 5 and x. Very good. Okay, so you just want to write this. These are all, like, if you don't have it, sometimes if you have a negative sign, it would have been good if you had a negative sign here. So to see that one of them is negative, but it's okay. These are all positive. So this is x squared plus 2x plus 5x plus 10. So you can just write separately like that. Do you see it? Again, it doesn't matter which order, but we want you to put them in standard. Remember, standard is the highest degree, right? So do you see those two middle terms? So you can combine them together. So this is x squared plus 7x plus 10. So same answer as the top. Do you see it? Now, I want you to think about it. Which one is the best for you? So I'll give you a few seconds to think about which method. We learned 3 different ways. We want you to pick the easiest one for you. Okay, how many of you guys like writing out each one, distributive property? Okay, how many of you guys like the arrow ones, FOIL? Okay, you like that? How many of you guys like the box? Okay, so you can tell that you guys have different, varieties of ways to solve these questions, right? So I want you to pick the best for you. Okay, so for binomial and trinomial, how many boxes do you think you need to draw in this case? What do you think, guys? I want you to think about how many boxes. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. Alright, so we need to have like a 2 rows and 3 columns, or 3 rows and 2 columns. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just going to draw 2 rows and 3 columns, like that. Like, I'm just going to show you that it doesn't really matter which way you put these things. I didn't draw the box very nicely, but I think that's good enough. Alright, since this one has 2 rows, what do you think we're going to put on this side? Anybody have an idea what we're going to put on this side? Yeah, very good. We're going to put 3x minus 4. And that means, what are we going to put on the top right here? What are we going to put on the top? Negative 2x. Oh yeah, now they can see it, yeah. 5x minus 6. Okay, so I'm going to give you about a minute to multiply these things and find the boxes in correct places. All right, let's see if you can put in the correct values in the correct places, okay? Go ahead and try it. I'm going to give you a few more seconds. I'm just going to call out individual person to kind of help me with each boxes. So I'll give you a few more seconds. I want everyone to try. Okay, so I think I gave you enough time to kind of think about those values. All right, so we're going to start with this one first, this bottom corner. All right, so Catherine, do you have this bottom corner right here?
5.
Okay, so these are multiplication. Okay, so it would be 3x times negative 2x will give you negative 6x squared. So if you don't have that, make sure you put negative 6x squared. Oh, sorry, this one is to the second power. It should be third. Okay? Sorry about that. That should be second power. So it's third. Okay, so let's go to the next box, which is this one. Ariana, do you have this box? Okay, so for this box, it will be negative 4 times negative 2x squared will give you positive 8x squared. You see that? Alright, so for this box, let's try. Sophia, do you have this box? Okay, this is 3x times 5x will give you 15x to the power of 2 will be this box. If you don't have that one, make sure you put them in. Alright, for the next box right here, Christian, do you have this box?
Negative 20x.
That is negative 20x is correct. Very good. If you don't have that, make sure you put them in. And Joe, do you have this box?
Negative 18x.
That is negative 18x is correct. Go ahead and put that in if you don't have it. Let's see. And the last box, Alexa?
24.
24 will be correct. Very good. All right, so if you don't have these values, make sure you put them in. And again, we're not asking you to use a box or array box, like a method. You could have used the arrows if you like, okay? As long as you get them correct. But if you use box, you can tell that this is the highest power, so you put negative 6x to the third power. Next will be plus 8x squared, plus 15x squared, minus 20x, minus 18x, plus 24. All right, so go ahead and write that. And this is where you need to combine, just like our quiz. We're combining like terms. I don't have any x to the third, so this is negative 6x to the third. We have positive 8x squared and positive 15x squared. That gives you positive 23x squared. And then we have negative 20x and negative 18x, so that will give you negative 38x, and then plus 24. And that will be your polynomial. Alright, again, you have enough space to write any notes you like. Okay, if you need to remind yourself to do something or need to think about something, then you need to write a little note off to the side someplace. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to stop this video. We're done for today. I'm just going to give you a worksheet. We only have, I think, 12 or 14 questions for your homework. You can probably finish that within the class time. We encourage you to finish as much as you can in the class. Okay? Alright, so there's a worksheet. Can you help help me pass off here?
We didn't set it up that way.